Hello friends, I have already said several times that January could be the most difficult month and that the tension would last until February 20th probably. But in the end, everything works out with the help of divine providence. Opinion article. Next, January's Hill. January could be very conflictive. We are in times of prophecies. Opaque policy high at Christmas due to administrative closure. Sidney Powell says they block her effort to help. The digital euro could be a reality in the second half of 2021. The trade agreement for Brexit benefits Spain and Europe. The pound sterling reaches a maximum of 2 years after this agreement. Elon Musk says Bitcoin is almost as fake as fiat money. Spain is not a people that surrenders or resigns, said the king in his speech. Let's start. The month of January could be very conflictive, and this is not only said by astrologers but also by political analysts who seem to have agreed on this issue. This is not just any Christmas, because American citizens are preparing for a messy atmosphere in January, according to Mike Adams. If the Republican president won on January 6th, violent extremists would take the streets and the president would have no choice but to invoke the insurrection law or insurrection act. Anyway, but we are all going to get through this together, no matter how bad it gets. Put the situation. Rudy Giuliani has revealed that you are going to discover everything at once, and it will be very shocking for the world. The honest people are ready to protect their republic and to defeat tyranny. So-called blue cities could be besieged, leading to outage and disruptions affecting every energy, food, water, communications and transportation. The problem would be that people begin to take justice into their own hands instead of following the legal procedures through fiat trials with all judicial guarantees. In the event that the patriots organize citizen arrests of alleged corrupt officials, the president would have no choice but to apply the insurrection law to bring order to the streets and legally prosecute criminals who have legal charges. The Wisconsin Alliance of Voters has filed a lawsuit against the Vice President Mike Pence, against Congress, and against the Electoral College to force state legislatures to pass electoral votes. Meanwhile, Mayor de Blasio has turned New York into a medical police state for travelers from the UK. Christmas blessings. Potential risk. Meanwhile, the president is surrounded by disloyalists such as allegedly White House legal advisor Pat Cipollone, who, according to Patrick Byrne, has done everything in his power to pressure the president to give in, while blocking all paths to victory. The president appears paralyzed in the White House, surrounded by disloyal staff members, actively plotting against him. If you do not invoke the insurrection law, it seems likely that the people will take the initiative to try to solve the problem. As we have said through multiple articles here, the president has all the assets and authority to do whatever it takes to save the republic. For example, he has the declassification option, the 14th Amendment option, the Insurrection Act option, the Cyber War Declaration option, etc. However, he would be surrounded by people who sabotage his every move and would be actively committing treason against the government by trying to overthrow the White House from within. Due to this boycott, there is a possibility that he will not take any action, but I don't think so. This would lead to a defeat on January 6th when Congress votes to accept borders from undecided states. Currently, this seems the most likely outcome. But if that happened, the country would erupt on January 9th. But I don't hope so, in spite of all. In such a case, if the president did not act, the people would probably do so, and it would never be good for any country if the people try to take justice into their own hands, because that would lead to chaos. If Congress did not defend the Republic, then the population would try to save it by applying the rights and duties described in the Second Amendment, which was written precisely to allow the people to defeat the tyranny at a time when circumstances were not so problematic like right now. It's almost as if the Founding Fathers wrote the Second Amendment for this exact moment in history. They knew that the government would grow bigger and more corrupt over time, ultimately transforming itself into a regime of isolated and privileged elitists who would ignore the will of the people to secure their profits and their own monopoly in power, using whatever means necessary. Moved holidays. The president will spend Christmas Day at his Palm Beach resort as millions of citizens risk losing unemployment and assistance on Saturday, and a partial government shutdown looms next week after the president's threat not to enact a $2.3 billion spending and aid package. On Monday, after Christmas weekend, the House of Representatives is scheduled to vote on the override of the presidential veto on a $740 billion bill authorizing the country's defense programs. If the House vote were successful, the Senate could vote on Tuesday. What the media doesn't tell is that this veto was produced because it included an article that cut off the president's hand, since it prevented him from declaring a state of alarm or applying the Insurrection Act. Lock against Sidney Powell. Sidney Powell says White House advisors block his efforts to help. Attorney Sidney Powell said in a December 23rd interview with Zenger News that top White House advisors prevent her from being in contact with the president, and they are blocking her efforts to take on a formal coordinating role in pursuing challenges in the electoral race on behalf of the president. The interview came after the media widely reported that there was a Times meeting in the Oval Office on Friday, first reported by the New York Times, involving Trump, Powell, former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn, the chief White House desk Mark Meadows, and the White House aide Pat Cipollone, National Security Advisor Robert O'Brien, and Attorney Rudy Giuliani reportedly participated by phone. Sidney Powell told Zenger News that the president verbally offered her the position of a special advisor to the White House during Friday's meeting, but she has not been able to present the president with the necessary documentation to make it official, as her appointment was effectively blocked. It hasn't happened, Powell said, because it looks like it was blocked after Friday night, or undone, or I am not sure what I'd call it, by senior White House staff, Powell suggested. Did someone throw sand on the gears? Asked the interviewer. Something like that, Powell replied. I have been prevented from speaking or communicating with President since I left the Oval Office on Friday night, Powell said, by apparently everyone around him to the President. Powell clarified that the position that they offered him was not of a special counsel in the style of Robert Mueller, but that there was a discussion that I was a special lawyer of the White House. The Attorney General appoints a special counsel, while the President may appoint a special counsel. The Attorney General appoints a special prosecutor, while the President may appoint a special counsel from the White House. On the other hand, Attorney General William Barr said in a news conference Monday that he saw no reason to appoint a special prosecutor to investigate the allegations. What else is he going to say? Tenacity. The President is decided. Several Pennsylvania state senators, all Republicans, met with the President in the Oval Office on December 23rd to discuss the electoral problems in their state. Among them was Senator Doug Mastriano, who later said he has never seen anyone more determined because the truth is on his side. The mood was one of determination. We have to find out what the hell happened here, Mastriano said. The President condemns the censorship of the big tech. During Christmas Eve, the President reiterated his concern about the censorship of the big tech, or large technology companies, a day after he vetoed a spending bill advocacy for Congress failure to remove liability protections for Silicon Valley social media companies. The President and his administration have repeatedly highlighted the risks of unbalanced control or of user content on social media platforms, stating that companies are engaging in conduct that limits views and undermines freedom of expression. The President and the Department of Justice have urged Congress to remove the legal protections in Section 230 of the Communication Decency Act on 1996 for companies that engaged in censorship or political conduct. Section 230 largely exempts online platforms from liability for content posted by their users, although they can be held liable for content that violates anti-sex, trafficking, or intellectual property laws. The law allows companies to block or filter content in good faith if they consider it obscene, lewd, indecent, excessively violent, harassing, or otherwise objectionable. However, the protections were not intended to apply to services that act more like publishers than online platforms, outgoing Attorney General William Barr said in a speech in May. Short news. Evacuation message before Nashville blast. Nashville police were able to get people to safety before a large explosion rocked downtown on Christmas morning, in what authorities call an act deliberate, while broadcasting a warning message urging people to evacuate moments before the explosion. This is marks of a false flag operation against the Patriots. A Chinese aircraft carrier crosses the Taiwan Strait a day after a U.S. destroyer sailed through that area. The Taiwanese authorities sent 6 warships along with their 8 aircraft from its air force to track the movements of the naval group. A group of combat ships led by the Shandong ship, the second operational aircraft carrier of the Chinese Navy, sailed through the Taiwan Straits on Monday during the regular exercises at the South China Sea. Economy. The digital euro could be a reality in the second half of 2021. This payment method would create a direct route between citizens and the European Central Bank itself, where each would have a deposit. Cryptocurrencies have created an alternative to traditional money since most do not have a regulatory entity, as in the case of blockchain. However, central banks such as China, Sweden, or the Federal Reserve itself are working on various projects to create digital currencies. The last to join has been the European Central Bank, which wants to launch its pilot project in mid-2021. In this way, the digital euro could be a reality within 6 months. Elon Musk says that Bitcoin is almost as bad as fiat money, but big transactions can be made in this cryptocurrency. The founder of Tesla and SpaceX, Elon Musk, pointed out this Sunday on his Twitter account that Bitcoin is almost the same poop as fiat money, but later showed his interest in making large transactions in this cryptocurrency. Brexit trade deal. The UK signed the Brexit trade deal with the European Union on Thursday, just 7 days before it leaves one of the world's largest trade blocs, in its most significant global turn since losing the British Empire, The pact agreement, more than 4 years after the country voted to narrowly leave the European Union, offers a way out of a chaotic end to a divorce that has shaken the 70-year project to forge European unity onto the ruins of the Second World War. It will preserve Britain's access to zero tariff and zero quotas to the 450 million consumer bloc single market, but it will not prevent economic blow and disruption for the UK or European Union member states. The British pound hits to a 2-year high after the Brexit trade deal. The pound rose more than 0.8% to around $1.356 after the deal was announced. It also rose against the euro to just over 1.11 euros. Earlier this month, the coin surpassed a 2020 high of $1.3624, a level in hand it hadn't reached since May 2018. The Brexit agreement is good news for Spain. The Minister of Foreign Affairs, Arantxa González Laya, pointed out this Thursday that the Brexit agreement is good news and has guaranteed that Spain will seek until the last second an agreement on Gibraltar, because the best option is to build an area of shared prosperity that facilitates mobility. The Spanish economy registers a historical quarterly rebound of 16.4%. The Spanish economy left the recession in the third quarter of 2020 after registering a historical rebound in gross domestic product of 16.4% between July and September. This is the largest quarterly advance in the historical series of the National Institute of Statistics, although it is slightly lower than the forecast that the agency made public in October of 16.7%. This unprecedented rebound in the Spanish economy coincided with the end of the lockdown. Spain is not a people that surrenders or resigns in bad times. This is the phrase that I liked the most in the King's Christmas speech. Felipe VI has called on the Spanish to undertake a great national effort in order to overcome discouragement and distrust. Rural tourism without travelers. Rural tourism accommodation faces Christmas at the end of the year with minimal reservation figures, a drop that has filled a glass full of the difficulties that the sector has experienced this year, and that it will motivate him to ask the government for a rescue plan. Message from a family business announcing its closure after 73 years of activity. In dots. We are deeply saddened by outraged by what Pedro Sánchez is doing to our nation, to all the families in Spain, and to the economy, because he is destroying it, literally speaking. But it also produces great sadness and indignation. The more than tepid social retraction that we are seeing, with which we realize that a large part of this society is more afraid than ashamed, and even worse, zero empathy and zero solidarity with those who suffer. Electricity consumption shows that Christmas Eve was scattered and short. Electricity consumption shows that Christmas Eve of the health crisis was scattered and shorter than usual, since from midnight the typical fall in electricity demand accelerated enormously in households compared to the average of the past years. The crisis could kill 168,000 children. The increase in child malnutrition due to health crisis, together with lower coverage of basic nutrition services, could cause the death of 168,000 children under 5 years of age in the world between 2020 and 2022. Times of prophecy. We are in times of prophecy according to James Gilliland. As we move into the age of Aquarius, the shift in consciousness and energy will reveal everything. There are many internal fights within the spiritual communities, some with merit, others venting their own personal problems and frustrations within the communities. Others are succumbing to some of very dark, divisive energies. There are those who undertake their own personal crusade to make a name for themselves by trying to bring down others, avoiding their own dark side by projecting it onto others. This is not a new problem, it is a very old problem, unfortunately. It is very important not to allow our own spiritual evolution to be derailed during this process. We have to dive into the heart, use our own inner sensitivity to discern what is true for us. The only reason someone has power over you is because you want something from them. There are those who want to be helped and will gladly hand over their powers to others. False promises of security, gifts, and utopia always come at a high price. Someone has to pay that price. And finally, when the money they have taken from others runs out, the result is always poverty, loss of freedom, riots, and genocide, as history teaches. In that case, you would have no way to protect yourself because the globalists would have taken your weapons. The greatest weapon against tyranny is knowledge and unity. Apply critical thinking, do your own research, stay out of the lane. Social media highly engaged and controlled by the global elite. Unifying means not allowing division games to separate you from your friends and family. Transfer all cultural and religious boundaries to unity consciousness. It is where the universe is headed. We all have a choice. Thanks a lot, friends, and Merry Christmas.